All right, guys. So, like Ricardo said, my name is Luis. Welcome to the second event of the Ignite Talk series, presented by myself, Luis Estrada, and Seth Rayleigh. For this event, like Ricardo mentioned, we're going to follow off the vision of starting with a less technological and a more lifestyle talk, followed by a more technology-based talk that Seth's going to give to you guys afterwards. Mine is called Food for Thought, as you can see by the title, and it focuses on entirely the past year. With this pandemic, I find myself at times feeling like I've been stuck in a rut, just kind of waking up every morning doing the same thing. Since everything's been closed down for about a year now, and our lives have changed pretty drastically in these past 12 months. I know a lot of places are opening up here again in the United States, and a lot of people are getting vaccinated. But in other countries around the world, that's not the reality just yet, and they might have to continue to deal with this for the foreseeable future until they could get some vaccines out to their population. And with that, we'll go on to the next slide, food and COVID-19. So let's talk about food and COVID.
If you want to put it in full screen mode, it's not in full screen mode, just as a quick note.
Is it not? Let me fix that, sorry.
Yeah, in presentation mode.
Yeah, sorry. Let me see if I can fix that real quick.
Sure. Thank you for who pointed it out.
From current slide.
Oop.
Have it. Oh.
I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
Yeah, I think I'm sharing all of my notes. Oh man, sorry guys. This was working right before we started this.
Yep, Murphy's Law. You know, it only makes sense.
It's Murphy's Law. Don't worry about it. Something always has to go wrong.
Something's got, yeah. Okay, I think it's loading this time.
Yeah, it's loading.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, we're in business. Great.
Okay, perfect. So continuing on to talking about food and COVID-19. Food is something that we all love and quite literally can't survive without. It's one of those things where people say, oh my God, I'd die without this. But that's quite literally right. It's not a hyperbole. You will die without food. Luckily for me, it's probably one of my favorite pastimes. I love going out with friends and just trying out different restaurants or different cuisines from different cultures. But more important, I love to cook. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember waking up in the mornings with my mom and just helping her make breakfast. It started off with just a few simple instructions like, hey, stir this pot here or put this in this pan here. But as I got older and I started to branch out a bit more and experiment with food, sometimes I thought I made really good things, and other times I think I made just like horrible creations, like stuff that should be crimes against mankind. But regardless of that, that never really deterred me, and I continued to grow with it. I started off with the cookbook recipes in the early 2000s, since we didn't really have high-speed internet by then. I'm sure a lot of you guys still remember we had dial-up, and YouTube still wasn't a thing. And even if it was a thing, when YouTube was barely starting up, I mean, I'm sure there was none of the videos that you have now. Like now you pretty much can find anything on there. But as you started to get older and we got faster internet connections came about, and I was trusted to use the computers without my mom thinking I was going to put a virus on it trying to play like online games. I moved on to trying a bunch of different recipes that I just kind of found online. And the phase that I'm on now is I love to go out to eat and trying out different things with my friends and then coming back and recreating that later on in the week. But that's kind of where COVID comes in and just like cuts that in half. This pandemic has pretty much come and put a hold on a lot of different aspects on our lives. A lot of businesses and restaurants had to close and mitigate the spread of the virus, which completely shocked us for a couple of months. Like I said, it's a bit more normal now here in the United States. And some countries are slowly starting to return back to where we were before this pandemic hit. But throughout the past year, a lot of people have actually struggled with this. I don't have the answers to all the problems, but the main topic of my talk is to encourage people to stay busy during these times and to not let themselves feel discouraged or become less productive in their daily lives. Now let's talk about exactly how has COVID-19 affected us. Like I said, the pandemic has affected us in multiple different ways, whether it's from an economic standpoint to a social one or a political one. But in one way that I feel that's been most apparent to young people like us has been from a social and mental perspective. In order to combat the rapid human-to-human transmission of this virus, governments all across the globe have had to implement lockdowns, isolations from one another, social distancings, and closures of schools, entertainment venues, and workplace, much like ours right now. This is a perfect example that I'm having to give this talk to you guys through a screen instead of being in the office. We haven't had the chance to meet one another face to face, share a cup of coffee together, or even be in the same room together. And although I believe that these implementations have definitely been necessary, we can't deny that over the past year, these restrictive measures have undoubtedly affected people's lives, that they and some had some negative consequences linked to them. And let's move on to sorry, that was supposed to be that slide, to the implications on our daily lives. So the combined force of these economic and social problems has pounded people full force, which has created problems for a large portion of society that they would not have had if this pandemic had not hit. If you take a look at the right of the screen, it shows a brief of the average share of adults that reported symptoms of anxiety disorder and depression. During this pandemic, about 4 in 10 adults in the United States have reported symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder, which is a big jump from the 1 in 10 adults that reported the same problems from January 2019 to June 2019. So if you see it, it's a 30% increase in literally 1 month of this year than it was for half a year in 2019. A study conducted by KFF from July 2020 has also found that many adults reported negative impacts on their mental health and well-being, including 36% saying that they had difficulty sleeping, 32% said that they had difficulty eating, 12% had an increase in alcohol consumption and substance abuse, and another 12% said that there was an increase in worsening chronic conditions due to the stress over this virus. But the people that we're going to talk about right now is going to be young people that are kind of in this call right now, predominantly our age group. So we had to experience the problem kind of on the edge with a perfect example is our schooling last semester. At least I know that I did. The upside to that was that I only had to do it for a few months. It's probably worse for those students that were barely starting college or have had to do this for over a year. College has been a pretty big part of our lives. It's where a lot of friends have been made, memories are created, and new experiences are had. The sad reality for a lot of the students this past year is that they've been stuck at home behind a computer screen, missing out on a lot of the things that we had the opportunity to do. A lot of these people had to experience a number of consequences due to the pandemic, such as I mentioned, the closure of universities and the loss of income or housing, which is linked to that. People like us that have had to transition to work. And at least with ADOS, they've been doing an amazing job and it's been a really good onboarding experience. So I count myself lucky, but that hasn't been the case with a lot of other people out in the world that are having to go through the same experience. Or maybe it's just been the misfortune of just losing your job completely, since a lot of companies have had to close down and have hiring freezes. On top of that, like I mentioned, it's a loss of complete social interactions that people need. During the pandemic, young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 have been the group that have most reported symptoms of anxiety and depression compared to adults of any other age group. Compared to all the other age group, young adults are more likely to report substance abuse by an increase of 12% or suicidal thoughts by an increase of 15%. And prior to this pandemic, young adults have already been more susceptible to these type of issues, but COVID-19 just really came around and just amplified all of these problems tenfold. But now that I have all the kind of depressive statistics out of the way, what exactly can we do about it? We move on to the next slide. So something that we could do about the problem and something that I've found that's kept me busy is to try out different hobbies. I've picked up a bit on hiking with my family, as you can kind of see on the right picture. It's really just brought us closer together and it's given me a chance to just go out and explore nature a lot more than I've had before. I started to play my alto saxophone again, which is something that I have not done in like 8 years. So it's been really nice to just kind of reconnect and remember how to play all of those old songs that I still had saved up. And one of my favorite activities, as I'm sure is a lot of yours, has been to eat. We've eaten a lot. There's a whole quarantine 15 going around. At least I know I put on some weight, and I know a lot of other people have as well. But most specifically is to cook, which is I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing right now since restaurants have been closed down for the past couple of months. So I'm going to branch out here and I'm going to try something a little bit different. I recorded a video for you guys, just walking you through a recipe on how I make baby back ribs. People in Texas love to make baby back ribs. It's one of my favorite things to eat, at least. And before I start the video, I know a lot of you guys are going to hate me for using a gas grill. At least I know Seth already mentioned it to me instead of using a charcoal one. But I barely found out we were doing this talk last week, and I had to put everything together, do the video, do the presentation, do the editing, do my whole talk here. So sorry if you guys don't like gas, but they still tasted out pretty fine. So let me go ahead and find that video to share with you guys.
The audio's not there. Murphy's Law, right? Yeah, Louis looking like the audio's not working again.
Maybe your microphone is not working properly as well. That warning you got by turning it off and on again.
Is he sharing the audio too?
Oh,
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
yes, we can,
There it
but
is.
yeah, the video was having some issues.
Okay, huh. Okay, let's try that one more time. It's so weird.
Yeah, but it's okay. Okay.
All
Time
right.
to charm.
So we're currently headed
There it
to
is.
Perfect.
get the
Okay.
ribs and the rubs and just pretty much everything I'm gonna need for the cooking video. But yeah, just walking you guys through the day, through the supplies, through my just normal COVID days, really. Since everything's kind of been closed and there's not really many places. Well, I guess in America, there is places that you can still go to. Restaurants are still open, but I try to minimize that as much as I can because I don't want to get sick. So I thought I'd add a little short clip of Texas on my way to Costco, just for everyone that's not from here and watching, everyone from Mexico and from the UK and just any other part of the world that might be watching the Ignite Talk series. I know this isn't, the prettiest part of Texas. We definitely have a lot more to offer, but I didn't have time to drive out to a little prettier place to show a nicer time lapse. So you guys get my trip to Costco, but I'll see you guys when we get there. So we finally made it to Costco to pick up the supplies. We're mostly here just for the ribs and maybe any other seasonings that I find that I think would go good on the ribs. You could just find these type of ribs pretty much in any grocery store, but I just go to Costco because it's where I've found them to be pretty good consistently, and it's just easy to get a 3-pack from here. So here is probably the best part of the store. I don't know why they tuck it into the back, but it's the beer and wine section. You get all of your bulk alcohol needs that you might need here. I definitely know we'll probably be using this for the end of the year Ignite party. So I got the ribs, y'all. You want to get the baby back ribs, pork loin back ribs. So I am having to shoot like in different sections, but my social anxiety is through the roof right now. I feel like a crazy person just talking to my phone as I walk through super packed Costco. But I mean, who knows? Maybe this will help out my my public speaking skills, which is the exact purpose of these Ignite video series. So I don't see rib rub here. I think I have some at home, but I just kind of wanted to check, see if there's anything else to put on there, but I guess not. We'll just go with the supplies we already have at home. I guess I just needed the ribs, and see you guys back when I get to my kitchen. All right, guys, so we're back in the kitchen from Costco. It was actually really full. That took longer than I expected it to, but it's normally always full on the weekends anyways. So we can finally get started on making these ribs, and chances are that while you guys are watching this video, I'm probably at my desk right now. My mic is muted and I'm just eating these ribs because I don't know about everyone else on this call, but I find it really hard to actually find a time to have my breakfast or my lunch or my dinner in this weird post-COVID world. So it's kind of nice. Sometimes I'll just have meetings and, I kind of eat between meetings or just kind of find a little quick 15, 20 minutes between work to actually get a meal in. So let's actually get started on making the ribs. All right, guys, for the seasoning, you're going to want to add 1 tablespoon of rib rub, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon of ground black pepper, and about half a tablespoon of cayenne pepper, just kind of depending on your taste. If you like it spicier, you can add a little bit more than that. You also want to add about half a tablespoon of salt into the seasoning mix. Alright guys, now that you have your seasoning all mixed up, you want to go ahead and put it into a salt shaker and just cover up those ribs and season generously on both sides. It's fine if you have some left over. You just want to make sure that they're all completely covered. Alright guys, so at this point you can see that the ribs have been fully seasoned. You want to drizzle some oil on there to make sure that seasoning sticks, and you want to put some brown sugar to counteract that spice that the cayenne pepper might have given it and add a little bit of sweetness. Now if you take a look at these ribs, you can see that they actually don't have a membrane anymore, but some ribs still will have the membrane, so an easy way to get rid of that is to stick a butter knife between any 2 ribs themselves and pull up. Once that skin comes loose, you want to grab a napkin and just rip it off across until it looks exactly like these. Alright guys, you can see the ribs have been seasoned generously on both sides, so what you want to do next is you want to grab the aluminum foil on both sides and fold it into each other, making sure that no water can get out, because we're going to add about 1/4 of an inch of depth in water, and what the water does, it just kind of makes sure the ribs stay nice and moist with that water vapor. You want to grab the top and fold it into itself as well, just making the entire packet as airtight as possible. Alright, so what you want to do next is grab another sheet of aluminum foil and just recover your ribs a second time, and what this second layer does is, again, it just keeps the water inside and to make sure that the ribs are nice and moist when they go onto the grill. Alright, so now that your ribs are nice and tightly sealed, what you want to do next is come outside to the grill and place them in the center of the grill, making sure that they get heat evenly, and you want to keep the grill at 300 through 350 degrees Fahrenheit for the next 2.5 hours, flipping once at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Alright guys, so now that it's been cooking for 2.5 hours, we want to go ahead and open it up and place the ribs directly on the grill grates. You're going to want to be careful because the aluminum foil is going to be extremely hot and there's going to be some water which might cause some flare-ups. But now it's time to go ahead and spread the barbecue on there. Alright, so now we're back inside and these ribs are finally ready. They took a total of about 2 hours and 40 minutes. I took them out of the aluminum foil at about the 2.5 hour mark, and I just spread the barbecue on both sides and I left them about 5 extra minutes on each side just to make sure that that barbecue really stuck onto those ribs. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys try it out maybe someday in the future. They're pretty good, and I can't wait to see what the rest of you guys do for the Ignite Talk series. All right, so we just end it on the very last slide here. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and you learned how to cook something new. I just wanted to end in a quote from Gordon Ramsay here, who I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. It says, "Put your head down and work hard. Never wait for things to happen. Make them happen for yourselves through hard work, through hard graft, and not giving up." The point of this talk was to encourage you guys to pick up any new hobby or try any new things or just anything else that will make a positive impact in your life and help you continue to thrive and get through these strange times. Thanks for listening, everybody.